But again, welcome everybody. Many of us have been sitting in this room for the last couple of days, but there's also new people in the audience today that have come in for DARTEP. And so welcome everyone and thank you all for coming to the meeting. Just a few housekeeping details to go through and things like that, but remembering that the leadership team for us, Beth and I are here representing the team today because Diane Brown had another commitment today and was not able to join us. And Brian's family has COVID. And so if Beth and I look a little stressed or like that, it's just because we're juggling a couple of different things today. But Brian's online and hosting and helping with the online folks and sending Beth and I texts about what we should do and like that. So yeah, the whole team is here in spirit, but welcome. We're going to start off with the DARTEP business. The DARTEP minutes have been posted. And can I have a motion to approve the minutes? So approved by Lori. Also want to thank Lori for taking notes for us today. Because Diane asked her to help step in, and so she's doing that. Got approval, a second? Sorry. Yeah. Barb Barafali. Without our name tags, and I can't read that far away. Motion to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye. We'll move forward. We want to talk a little bit about some things that are going to be changing in DARTEP. We want to start next year when we have in-person meetings, and we may try to figure out how to do it for virtual meetings too. But at this time that we have always set up before the meeting with the breakfast and like that, to have a poster session. Talking about best practices where each of our universities can share what we're doing. And so we can start those conversations. And we've got some topic areas identified that have come up in different surveys. Just want to let you know that we're going to do that. And in a minute, I'm going to show you a quick video that will introduce it too. But we want to start doing that and having a little more structure, a little more time to share because our Java-likes are never long enough. And sometimes we can't, none of us can attend all of the Java-likes, and so a chance to see what's happening in the other sessions too. With that, we'll move on to the budget report. Whoops. Yes. The slides are not in the order that we thought. So we'll talk about this one first, then we'll go to the budget report. So these are the dates that we've picked for the next year's meetings. We are still looking for a host for the October 6th meeting. And so please let us know if your institution would like to host the October meeting. The December meeting will be at Siena Heights. We've decided as a group that we're probably going to always keep the February meeting virtual because travel in February is dicey. And so, and then we will have the April meeting wherever the accreditation conference is going to be. And so we're going to try to always tag onto that. And we know that this is the last year that Hope College is going to be hosting this. So if you were not here the last couple of days and heard Doug's pitch for how easy it is to host this and all of that, Doug would be glad to fill you in on all the details and like that. So we're looking forward to continuing that partnership because it makes for a nice extension of the accreditation conference and then into DARTEP. This is the video I was mentioning.
Welcome to DARTEP. I'm Diane Brown. I'll be your chair next year for DARTEP. I'm so sorry I cannot be there today to do this in person, but I do really want to thank Beth and Marcia and Brian and everyone else from MDE and everyone else who had a part of putting this meeting together. Next year, during the breakfast and lunch times of the DARTEP meetings, we're going to start a new practice. It's called the Best Practices Breakfast. So what is the Best Practices Breakfast? Well, that's poster presentations of best practices that have come about as a result of the new assignments, the new assessments, and new partnerships that resulted from the changes in grade bands. We encourage you to bring a new faculty member, a graduate student, or perhaps an undergraduate student who's interested in graduate school to be the presenter of this poster. We'll have tables around for these posters, and we're going to do this in the October, December, and perhaps even the spring meeting. So what, you may ask, should be on this poster? Well, first of all, what problem of practice were you trying to solve? Or what requirements were you trying to address with this practice? What did you try? Please share the links, QR codes, or documents that you may have. Anything that you'd like to share. What were the results? We'd love to see student work here. And how does this inform your program design, your program assessment as you move forward? Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in October.
So we wanted to start a new practice and start heading to different types of sharing out, because with the new grade bands.
Good morning and welcome to DARTEP. I'm Diane Brown. I'll be your.
This is why I asked Beth to come up and help me do it. And she's going to stay up in charge. We think it's going to be a nice opportunity to share some things in a different format and like that. And so we'll give it a try. It'll be a nice opportunity to get some other information out. And we talked about it in our executive meeting like that. It's also a time to don't always share just the successes. Here's what we tried and here's why it didn't work. It's also a very needed thing to do. So please help us out with that.
Good morning, everybody. Glad to see you all here in person. Some of you I've seen over the last couple of days and some just came in today. So thank you. We'd like to thank Hope for hosting DARTEP today. We greatly appreciate that. And we're going to be sad not to be back next year. So for those of you, again, that were not here, Doug did say he would help the next group that wants to host the accreditation meeting, and DARTEP would like to piggyback that on again. So talk to Doug if you have any questions. So for the treasurer's report, our March balance, we're in good shape, $17,398.04. Our April DARTEP meeting, this meeting, you can see what that meeting costs to have here at Hope. That includes our rooms and our meals. So our balance after today will be $15,460.04. But MDE agreed to host our lunch today. So we would like to thank our MDE colleagues. We greatly appreciate that. And so we will have just over $16,000 in our budget. So if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to contact me. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And next, we're going to move to organizational reports.
Beth Kabinski usually represents MACD, and I didn't get a chance. Sorry, Beth Kabinski usually represents MACD, and we didn't get a chance to ask somebody else. But Gina, would you like to talk about what MACD is doing this summer? Do we know anything about the summer meeting? Nope. Okay. Okay. Well, did any else that got information? Hey, well, I'll tell you what. Wonderful. We know that they've been working on a brochure, and we've got a link to that here.
Yeah,
and
there is the brochure that Marcia just mentioned talks about the comparison between traditional programs in our state, alternative programs in our state, and what is required of substitute teachers. It is in the Hope folder for 2023, the Hope Conference folder. You can find it there. We're hoping that you are able to use that when discussing life with your legislators, or if people have certain questions about the unique qualities of alt-right route programs and the traditional programs that we have at our universities. The June conference up at Northern, Joe has been working on that. It is scheduled for June 11. Somebody look at their calendar and make sure that's a Monday. June 11, 12, and 13, I believe. And more information will be coming out when the MACD board gets together here in the next couple weeks. So probably first part of May, middle of May, you'll see some more information about the summer retreat up at Northern.
Thank you. And we'll also send out a link to the we'll also send out a link to the brochure so that you've got it in multiple spots for it. Michigan Public Deans will have their next meeting next Wednesday in Lansing at the library. And we are still in the planning stages of developing a meeting with MyPie, and we're looking to do that virtually in May. And so that we can have both the independents and the public institutions talking together at that point. As we're all waiting for Grow Your Own, we're all making those adjustments and like that. And just moving forward with the grade band discussions and trying to build our partnerships with community colleges and across our institutions to help maximize the opportunities for our students. Lori? Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Marcia,
I will probably put them in front of the camera there.
yeah, there you go. We just want to thank you for your leadership. And Marcia took over as the chair when Susan English retired, and so took on a lot of responsibility earlier than she expected. And I've just appreciated being able to work with you. You're collaborative, and even just in the last 2 days, when we had the accreditation conference, hearing your wisdom and your willingness to share your ideas. I just want you to know that we appreciate you.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm also here to share from
Well,
my what?
Lori's also been a great stand-in for us this year, because for a while we didn't have a representative from the independents. And anytime I said, we need some help, she was always there for me. And so
Oh.
it's a team effort.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh. All right, so this is the I'm Lori Burgess from Cornerstone University, and I'm giving you the update from MyPie, that stands for the Michigan Independent Educator Preparation Institutions, for those of you who are new. We had a meeting in Lansing with MICU, and I don't know if it's MICU or MICU, but that stands for the Michigan Independent Colleges and Universities. So we met with that group, and basically our focus was on the Michigan Future Educator Stipend, and the fact that student teachers are getting the stipend are not getting it if they're in Christian or non-public schools. And so we're talking about that legislation. Also talked about the teacher prep pathway, like Marcia mentioned, and maybe building some partnerships with community colleges. We also heard about a national assessment option. And then the president of MICU just gave us some legislative updates so that we kind of know what's going on moving forward. So thank you.
So next, as all my pleading emails out to the listserv over the last few weeks have gone, we need a new chair-elect. And we always alternate in this group between independent universities and public universities. And this year was going to be an independent university one, and with retirement and like that, I moved from chair-elect to chair very quickly. And so next year, Diane has agreed to be the chair, and we are looking for nominations for chair-elect from a public institution. Thank you, Stein. Stein's kind of in the place I was last year. It's like, yeah, I can do that. Other people could volunteer too. And yes, a year ago, Jennifer called me and said, here's why it's so easy to do. And I learned from Jennifer and approached Stein on Wednesday and said, nobody's stepped up yet. How about? So I learned from the best, and those that have to do this in the future, we can train you on this too. But there we go. But we have one nomination. Can I have a vote to approve Stein as the chair-elect for DARTEP for next year? So moved. Second? Maybe I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Congratulations, Stein. One slight change that we're going to make this year, and I'll announce it now instead of filling it in at the end. Normally, this would be my last meeting. Diane was not able to be here today, and so we're also going to follow last year's tradition where Jennifer led the first meeting and I picked up during the second meeting. I will chair the first meeting next year and Diane will pick up with the second meeting. And so that transition can occur a little bit more smoothly in that way. So we're going to continue that. So thank you again. Alan? A lot of us have been here the last 2 days, but there's a lot of people that have not been here. And we want to do a different type of reflection. And Alam wanted to organize a different type of reflection on the experience that people have had and how that can inform our work for the day and into the coming year. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Actually, it wasn't just my bright idea. Our whole prep team thought it would be great if those that were in attendance could have opportunity to start a talk at the table with those who were not in attendance and share what they took away, and also possibly start a dialogue on what could also be explored, what possible resources are available and can be leveraged, and what we at MDE and as a collective at DARTEP can do to possibly support that. So we're a bit early, and I wonder at this point, because we also have a simultaneously occurring activity for those who are with us on Zoom. So we want to make sure that there's also someone that was in attendance that is also joining our Zoom colleagues to do the same thing. So I was hoping for the opportunity to get a couple of volunteers. And then we'll take a little break to get situated. So if you're thinking about it, I don't know, what incentive can we share, Marcia? Help Gina. Yes. All right. So how about a 10-minute break and we'll come back to do that activity. Thank you. All right. We heard some great conversations and we want to make sure that everyone else in the room gets to hear from each of you at each of the tables. My wonderful colleague Darcy is going to help, and she'll have the mic on this end of the room. And our dear Beth will have a mic on this end of the room. We'll be alternating tables. So we'll start over there. Darcy? Beth is ready. Let's hop to a different table. Yeah.
Everybody left my table, so I guess it's me. However, we came up with a few pieces that were important takeaways. One of them was the idea for core teaching practices being more intentionally integrated from beginning to end. A second piece was the importance of developing supports and training for our mentor teachers when our student teachers are placed in their classrooms. And a final piece that seems to be very thematic throughout the different conversations is the value and importance, and I would say the imperative nature of having a succession plan.
Well, I think we're up next. We went really deep down one rabbit hole, and that was the MTTC, and just spent our time talking about the transition, especially in elementary, from the 103 test to the new grade band tests, having some issues with students not taking the certification exams. and why that's happening. And we talked about people in the legacy at the cost of this, and people who are unable to pass the 103 legacy exam who are now taking the new grade band tests, the pros and cons of that. So we just were looking at data and a number of folks who are not taking it, talking about solutions, thinking about how to get our hands on to some practice tests, and what kinds of supports we can offer our students and how we can motivate them to take the exams. So we spent most of our time talking about that.
So we talked about just hearing what other institutions are doing and finding that our institution is not doing as bad as we thought. So the other thing too is how to better use the MDE data that we are getting, how to use it more effectively in terms of whether it's for a CAPE or just informing our program better, looking at that kind of stuff, and then looking at any other finding, we enjoyed at least I enjoyed hearing about like the completers, because we've been really struggling with getting data from our completers and what are some different ways of keeping in contact with them so that we can get that data from them, get the focus groups going. We've been really struggling with that. So that was really helpful for us too.
So we had a similar thought that we were really grateful that we were all in this together, and we were all struggling, trying to figure this out. We were also inspired that we felt like there were lots of people who were willing to provide support and from NDE and from other institutions. And that led us to, we're going to call it Oakland. We were really inspired by your use of data days and making your data kind of readily available, transparent, and that you engage with it on a regular basis. Were the things that we noted.
Oh, hello. Hi, we were talking about many of the same ideas, a lot about data. We also had the MTTC conversation. So one of the angles I'll just talk about, we talked a lot about how we're going to make that connection between the on-the-ground work and the data analysis, storage, the systems that we create, and how to continue to tighten up those systems so that we're all working together and that they're not separated.
One of the threads that came from our group was this notion of just partnership and the collaboration within and across the state. Our group also talked about Oakland's generosity in sharing their tools, sharing their processes so that they could be improved upon and then hopefully shared back. So we thought that was just really inspiring, the collaboration across institutions, the collaboration from our MDE folks in working with us to think about if there are rules that might be bent in our favor to experiment, to then inform future policies and maybe even law changes, in the event that there begins to be a pattern. And then also the collaboration with partners, site-based partners in districts, and the encouragement we heard from a superintendent from the Detroit area, asking us to ask them what they need and what resources they may have to help us prepare future teachers, and just to really lean into those partnership conversations as well.
Hi, Amy Schelling from Grand Valley State University. Our team today talked quite a bit about, like we've been noting the last few days, about the really extensive collaboration and support that we get from each other and from the Michigan Department of Education, and how just very grateful we are for that. And in sitting in the different sessions that we had across the last 2 days, getting an idea or ideas about what we could be doing and what we might be doing better and different ways of doing, so that we are
meeting our accreditation standards, but in the end, doing the things that we need to do to best serve P12 children and youth. And so that was something that we also took away. The idea of an assessment dashboard that would make the data more accessible to faculty and staff was something that we talked quite a bit about as well. But just very appreciative of all the great ideas that people shared. And again, everybody's willingness to support one another and collaborate in the great work, right, of preparing teachers to serve the children in Michigan the best that they can.
Hi, Christine Lancaster, Eastern Michigan University. I was in breakout room 1. We talked about four main things probably. We started with talking about tracking student the field experiences to ensure that our students are getting diverse experiences. We talked about succession plans. So when one person or when say some people leave, the next people having an opportunity to know what's going on. So with student teaching, one of our members talked about I can't remember the name of the program. Probably if I pulled up my notes, I would see it. But anyway, the system that they're using that students can go on and enter the experiences that they're getting along the way. And then a person can go on and approve those hours so that over the time of the person, the student is in, the candidate is in their classes, they can see what experiences they're getting. And then throughout that time, they'll know whether each student is getting diverse experiences they want them to get. They also talked about a succession plan that where they're using a Google Drive that has where they put in all of the standards and then in the years. And so as a year goes along, they put in at that standard, if I'm understanding correctly, this is how I was picturing what they were doing. They put in there what they're doing, you know, like within a couple of weeks of doing the things that they're needing to be doing so that, you know, because we all know that we're looking at student learning, we're looking at experiences, we're using continuous improvement, but having that system in place that can serve two things. One is an assessment system that we know is ongoing, that we can talk about. And two, when somebody else comes in, for them to have a place where they can go and see what's been going on. A lot of us will be answering questions back and forth after we're no longer doing this role. So that sounds like a great system. And then we also talked about MDE, the session where Jason talked about how to use the data, the efficacy, and that he provided information on how to use Excel to analyze that data.
My name is Justine Kane. I'm from Aquinas College. And we said a lot of things you've already heard around the room. A couple of things that we appreciated was one of the things that we spoke a lot about was the data dump and that whole succession of data presentations that built on one another and really helped us understand, especially from Jason Kalmbach and his colleague, I think her name is Kate, who really talked to us about what they do and where it is and how they do it, and really were offered their help in very concrete ways, which was very helpful. We appreciated hearing from the fact that AQUIP was here. One of the people at the table wondered where CAPE was, but was very happy to be able to talk to the folks from AQUIP and hear about what their process is and what makes AQUIP AQUIP. We appreciated hearing from Tavera, which I think is the company you were referring to that gave us the how students can log in, but also CPAST and hearing people's experience of doing it. That was, there were a couple of panels that we talked about that were really just hearing the experience of the people in the room with that software or that process or that connection. But Really, we just wanted to shout out to all of MDE and your support of us as people in the field doing the work that we're doing. And we just have to say, we love you, Gina.
Kyle Churin, Concordia University, Ann Arbor. I was in the other Zoom breakout room, room 2. In our discussions, some overlap in some of the things we've already heard, but one was we talked about the platforms for tracking clinicals. That was a big topic of discussion. Tavera, student learning and licensure, and Google Docs was brought up as well. There might be a question coming out to the listserv asking for what different places are using and costs and things like that. So if you see that, appreciate you adding information to that. The other discussion was mainly on assessments, talking about the especially qualitative assessment as opposed to quantitative assessment as it relates to continuous improvement and accreditation. I was in that session and hearing how the term trustworthiness from AQUEP as opposed to validity and reliability, that was kind of an interesting, we had a little interesting discussion around that and how specifically we can use our assessments for continuous improvement first and meeting accreditation requirements second. So great discussion in our group.
I'm Jillian from CMU, and our group talked a lot about hearing from site visitors and what to expect. We're preparing for a site visit this fall. It'll be my first since I joined the institution right after our initial. And so it was really great to hear from the perspective of people who do this work and how we can support them so that we can get the best quality feedback and continue to improve our programs. And that was very reassuring that we don't have to be perfect. We just have to be honest and really supportive of the process, and that will work out. And then we had some really great conversations around core teaching practices and assessments and ways that we can build on what we're already doing, that we don't have to completely revamp everything, but that there are strong practices we already have and we can just add to those. So it was really inspirational and reassuring. So that's great.
Hi, I'm Eric from Albion College. I'll keep this short because it would just really echo a lot of what's already been said by a number of the tables. But one of the most inspiring things was hearing from other people's journey and hearing from other institutions where they're at in this whole accreditation process and just teacher development in general, and how similar our stories are and how eager people are to pay it forward, to be an asset, to be a resource for each other. That goes EPP to EPP, but also from MDE, from DARTEP, from MyPie, McHugh, all of them. We talked specifically about MTTC preparation as a particularly common challenge across all our institutions. Hearing some really great ideas in the panels and the sessions the last couple of days about how to prepare for that, especially as they sort of overlap with some innovative and experimental programs. But looking ahead at other ways to partner with each other to share that burden of preparing our students, because it's something that we're all facing. So how do we work together collaboratively, side by side, for preparing each of our own students for something like the MTTC? We also talked a little bit about, emerging challenges, specifically the things that our teachers are facing on social media, in school board presentations. I think the phrase that we settled on was concerned community members, and I'm using air quotes. How do we prepare our teachers and hear our future teachers' concerns and prepare them for that? And in terms of support and resources, what kind of role can DARTEP, what kind of role can MD provide in legislative support, in preparation and training that helps our teachers defend themselves, defend their schools, and be better prepared to handle these emerging concerned parents?
All right, well, thank you so much. Give yourselves a big hand.
All right, first thing is legislative update. These two reciprocity bills, 161 and 162, were voted out of committee, sent to the full floor of the Senate this week. The Senate won't be meeting until think the 19th again. So we haven't got about another week on it, and then it'll have to go to the House. You could see Chris is very excited about this. Our whole team is very excited about this. These are reciprocity bills for teachers and school counselors. There are two big things to note about it. One is for individuals who have at least 3 years of teaching outside of Michigan can get a standard certificate without testing. And then second is it moves the obligation for first aid and CPR into the teacher's first 3 years of service. So, which is not reciprocity, but it's in the reciprocity bill. And it's a strange bill because previous legislators that we've worked with and legislative aides, a bill, they like to work on one section of law, right? And if there's multiple sections of law that need to be amended, you like to have it in separate bills. This one, it's got multiple sections of law all crammed together into one bill. So anyway, we are supportive of this, these two bills, and hopefully we look forward to getting those implemented. But the big thing for you all is that CPR first aid piece. That would again move that into the required professional development from the district in the first 3 years. So one less thing. Again, always our. What's that? Your graduates. Right. Whenever this bill becomes law and has an effective date on it. So we don't know. It is moving fast. So yes, you don't have to do the CPR first aid monitoring of your people. Again, don't change your policies until it's law, but so we have quite a bit of communication plan built around it. Yeah, Christine, another question? Yes. People without a state license with 3 years teaching experience. I'm repeating the question through here. So, oh, okay.
So with the reciprocity, people who are out of state, they have an out of state teaching certificate.
Right.
They have 3 years of teaching experience.
Right.
They come here and they are automatically eligible for a standard.
Yeah, they apply for a standard.
Yep.
They would not have to test.
They don't have to test.
Right. Right now, the way is if they apply and qualify for a professional, which includes reading coursework and the 3 years teaching, et cetera, those folks don't have to test, but people who come and don't have all of those things that qualify for a professional have to test to get a standard. This cleans that up.
So only the test changes. They still need 3 hours of reading at the secondary and 6 hours of reading at the elementary.
Yeah. The reading requirements remain.
Not the reading
diagnostics,
but
right? Not diagnostics.
thank you.
All right. These are great questions. Thank you. Like I said, the reciprocity bill won't affect you as much, or the reciprocity piece of the bill won't necessarily affect your work as much. Again, if you have people, we have people in Michigan who do the couch programs through like Grand Canyon and University of Phoenix and stuff like that, and they just do a program and they don't get that certificate. This is not going to help them. They're still going to have to test because this requires that documented demonstration of teaching for at least 3 years on that out-of-state cert, not simply I took a program from another state, I can now get a Michigan certificate without testing. We don't want that collectively. There you go. So again, always a reminder, the quarterly written updates, which get posted to the DARTEP website. Most everything we have here today is replicated in there in some way, shape, or form. So to summarize into the mic for our online folks, yeah, the interpretation of holding a certificate is would be expanded to include, you know, if somebody had a certificate that was valid, and professional practices being, let's say, equal for that. So, all right. A couple things on the Future Educator Fellowship and Future Educator Stipend. Of course, as a reminder, head on over to the Treasury's My Student Aid for all the information on that. Their website shows the program info pages for this. They have updating them about every week to show how many people have earned or how much money has gone out and how many people have been affected. So we've got over 500 teachers now who've been given fellowship funds, and then it keeps going up each week. That's only about 4.2 million. For stipends go, we're nearing 3,000 of those. So that's quite good. That's used up anywhere between like 25-30 million of that allotment. So that's quite popular. One thing that they're finding, Treasury is finding, are that delays some things are the verification processes. So they're hoping to streamline that with the 23-24, or they're planning to streamline that with the 23-24 applications so that the verifications don't take so long. And the they're streamlining that piece. The other is we have 500 fellowship applicants who have been funded is only about 15 to 20% of the total applications that have been submitted. And there are obviously there's some statutory limitations in there, that fall 2022 first enrollment piece, which we're hoping we can change. The legislature would change. What's that? Well, again, we have to work with the legislature on this, but I mean, could that get rid of that word first enrollment? So they have to be enrolled in fall 22 or beyond, but not that first enrollment piece. Yeah, that's a hope and dream that the legislature would do that. But what has stopped a lot of people in the applications is they're all for it. They filled it out. They're eligible, and then they get to the promissory note that if you don't teach, you know, this turns into a loan, and then people are stopping out at that point. Like, whoa, no, I don't want to do that. And okay, sure, I get it. Why you might not want to do that, but that seems to be one of the things that's not going to go away, that piece, because we want this to fund people who stay in Michigan schools and make things better for Michigan kids. But that's part of some of the factors that why like, wow, they're allocated this huge amount of money and they've only spent about 4 million. Well, people they're making that economic choice after consideration. The application for the 23-24 window will open up on May 1st. So that's, you know, as you're looking to that, Treasury did ask us, asked me 2 weeks ago or a week ago. Generally, when do EPIs start arranging student teaching placements? Because we'd like to be able to time this application to match that so people can get ahead. And I said, well, they're doing it now.
Right.
Yeah, they're doing this now for that. So anytime you want to open that up, the better. So, so yeah, there you are. Well, we hope. Yeah, no, we don't. You know, we hope that continues. Right. It is year to year. Right. Right. Yeah. It just gets here. So that is something that the legislature could change in their language. They could do bills that make it, you know, outside of the annual budget bills. But yeah. Yes.
Do we know that the stipend is funded for 23-24? Originally, it was only funded for the 22-23 state's fiscal year budget, and that budget is only out, I think, it hasn't been approved yet.
Right. No, it hasn't been approved yet. I mean, it's in the executive recommendations, which current makeup of the legislature is very favorable to just about anything that the governor is putting into those executive recommendations. So we would imagine it will sail through with little modification from what the governor recommends, as well as what the departments recommend. We're never going to say, stop funding this thing. There are other things we may, you know, don't fund that, but this, we want to have it keep being funded. Treasury is also on board. They're like, yeah, we want to have this. We want this robust portfolio of higher education aid options to be able to do, because again, we see it all as an investment in the common good, not you know, handout or an entitlement at all. It's an investment in the common good. Yeah, Carl.
Yeah, sure. Is there, you know, if there is.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, is there any movement by the legislature in terms of the stipend for opening up for student teachers who are in non-public schools?
Actually, this is okay. I mentioned hopes and dreams. One of the things for hopes and dreams from Treasury is that some of that money for allocated for stipends come from the general fund rather than from the state aid, school state aid fund, to enable that. So it's not there in the current language, but yeah, they were saying if we could do that, then it could open up that piece for those who are student teaching in non-publics. That's a good question. Thank you. And I meet with them every other Tuesday, and you know, we have nice conversations. And actually, it's a really good relationship. I really do value the collaboration. And I love what we're doing. I mean, I love seeing the numbers go up. Okay, want to talk a little bit now about the GUIO grants, so the things that we have control over. And Jenny, do you like to come on up here?
Hi all. Again, I'm Jenny Dickens. I was newly hired in December to work on the GYO programming, and it has been a total honor and a whirlwind. So we have lots of information for you, and if I do not have the answers to your questions, I will defer to my team, but please know that we are all hard at work at getting these grants out to you. So to give you a little bit of a background on our fiscal year 22 GYO grant. We had a budget of $1 million, $7 million in requested funds. So there was clearly a need and a desire for this kind of support. For that round of funding, the awardees were the individual educators in attendance at Michigan EPIs. And we had a preference for candidates that had completed 50% or more of their programs at that time upon application, which was in March. So that showed us that there was indeed a desire and a need, and we were able to get 158 teachers funded, 27 education preparation providers, fewer than $10,000 per awardee, but we were able to get 6,000 was the average funding request per awardee. So the good news is that we have 34 grantees that were able to earn the new endorsement or certification. That's again as of numbers early in January. So this has been a overall very positive and effective award. Now to pivot to the fiscal year 23 award, we had significantly higher funds available. We went from $1 million available to $175 million available, which is an excellent vote of confidence in us and in our ability to fund our candidates. So we did have $175 million requested or available, and we had $229 million requested. So our districts, responded in kind. These GYO grants this time are going to the LEAs, PSAs, and ISDs instead of towards the individual candidate to address these staffing shortages that are local, that are specific to the need of the area. And they do, as many of you know, require that partnership with the EPPs and the agreements that come with that. So these are for candidates enrolled between March 21 and December 26. These are from fiscal recovery funds. And so that is what defined that, that spending window. So where are we at, which is what everybody wants to know. So to give you a little bit of an update, we have completed the review of our applications. We had 129 applications, and federal competitive grant requirements are stringent and rigorous. And we had to find 3 reviewers for every single application we had. These are all generous, wonderful, kind volunteers who reviewed over 16 applications each, and each application took them probably well over an hour. So please know that everybody was very conscientious in their review and thorough in their review. But it did unfortunately bump our estimated timeline a little bit. Just the sheer volume and complexity of these applications made it take a little bit longer, and we were mindful of what we could ask our reviewers to do. So with that said, we did complete that application review. And we had some excellent applications, and we are very pleased to say that all of the applications that had that were error-free and that met that minimum threshold are able to be fully funded for all of their allowable costs, all of them. For those applications that contained errors, we had a little bit of a exciting challenge ahead of us. There were a variety of different kinds of errors. There's diversity in errors, and some of them ranged from missing pieces that were clearly disqualifiable, and some of them were more typographical in nature. So what we did was we pursued some alternate action to our initial guidance of disqualification to see if there was another way that we could fund these applicants who had what seemed to us small errors. So one type of error that was notable was some of the EPP agreements. Some of their uploads did not contain both signatures, or there were some uploads that were just missing. They had uploaded some, but not others. And so we worked with our guidance team, our federal guidance team, to see if there was a way to still bring them into the fold. And we found that as of this week, we were cleared to allow for resubmissions and corrections in a very short window for those specific applicants that might have met that minimum threshold for review via a small correction. So that is very heartening. And thanks to everyone's patience, we're able to get up to $20 million more out the door into the hands of school districts. So that is a victory for us over a typographical error issue. However, there were, of course, some, as I said, some disqualifiable errors that we were not able to extend that flexibility to. So what that resulted in was money or funds remaining on the table. So what we have found is that we will likely announce a second round in the coming weeks, along with our award. Our award date has shifted, as I mentioned before, has been extended a little bit to be shifted towards May. Instead of the end of April, we'll be closer towards late May as an award announcement. But with that announcement, we will also likely announce that second round. So what are some ways that you all can support your partners? We ask that you be ready and be available to them. Many of them will be reaching out to you, maybe in a panic, saying, we need to get this corrected. We need a second copy. I lost this copy. Will you please sign this? There are many pieces that they might need in a very quick turnaround time. So we ask that you make yourselves available and just be extra responsive and on the lookout for those emails in the coming weeks. We also ask that you identify somebody to be your point person during those summer months. So because that expenditure window is a strict one, I know that a lot of of these applicants are going to need somebody to talk to over those summer months as they figure out and they work through the cohorts that they have got approved. We also thank everybody who designed these agreements to be very explicit and clear for those 7 points that expedited the review. So as you think about any future agreements that you want to create, especially for that second round, it was extraordinarily helpful when you outlined all those 7 parts and made it very clear where everybody was to sign. And that really just sped those reviews along. So something to keep in mind there. I know that Sean has created a link, what is that? A Google document, a QR code to a Google document that that leaves some space for EPPs and EPIs to identify their summer point person. And we will share this list and their contact information. We will share this list with our applicants so that we can expedite their time as well and reduce the amount of time that it takes for them to complete that second round of applications. So we will post all of these updates on our GYO grant website. You are hearing it here first. So please know that we're working hard to get that money where it belongs. And we are grateful for your help, your support, and your patience.
Awesome. Thank you. Are there any questions for Jenny? I hear expressions of gratitude, so that's excellent. Okay, special education, Gina.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really excited to share an update with you today about what's going on with special education. As you see before you, this website is for Project Optimize. There was a 94D legislative task force that was created this past year, and that legislative task force was tasked with trying to figure out the special education shortage. Specifically recruit, preparation, and retain. And so the task force has been taking several approaches to our special ed shortage. One of the things that they've been creating different stakeholder groups. They've been doing listening tours. Some of you probably talked with Lori Vanderploeg and from CEC and really kind of got a chance to talk to them about, what are the challenges, what are the barriers. So this is very exciting because it was kind of a legislatively appointed task force. We have had a little more access with Office of Special Ed than we normally would have. And one of the things we've been kind of working with that preparation piece. So 2 of the recommendations that were approved by Dr. Rice and we're moving forward with right now. One is that it's been recommended that we create an initial special ed certification pathway for a standalone special ed certificate that is not required to be paired with a gen ed. You still can, but you don't have to. We've been doing this with experimental programs. And so what I've convinced, because this is going to be a dance, this is a dance, right? We are opening Mars. We are opening Mars. We are opening Mars. I'm really excited about this, but that's going to take a couple of years. So this rule is changing. I know that there are some, and I respect that there are some special ed programs and departments that feel very strongly about that pairing of gen ed and special ed. And like I said, you don't have to choose to create one of these, but we are going to be removing this from Mars. We are going to be establishing eventually that you have special ed that can be standalone. And what we're going to ask people to do is pair a special ed prep program with one of your approved professional sequences. And then your candidates will come out with that special ed endorsement, and they'll also take that professional test so that we can demonstrate these are good teachers and they're well prepared. The other piece that we're hoping these programs do is give them preparation across all content areas. Because when you have to pair it with a gen ed, they're focused on one content area, unless they do elementary, and that's ridiculous in time. So having these programs allow these teachers to have preparation across all the content areas without having to get a cert in any of those content areas. They're going to come out being able to serve all students They're going to be able to serve them in all their content environments. And so we're really excited about this. We're encouraging anyone, any program that would like to get a jump start on this to call me. Let's get an experimental approval done for your program, and let's, hit the ground running on this. The second piece of this is that we are starting, hopefully in May or June, a stakeholder group to create a cross-categorical special education teacher endorsement. We are going to start preparing teachers to work with all students. It's going to be special education teacher, and then people will be able to specialize, because we're not going to be able to take away those other endorsements. Those are going to have to stay. But what we're really hoping is that then those programs can be really like specialized programs, possibly specialized grad programs like your ASD program, our DHH programs and VI programs that we desperately still need. You can really think about, what does that next layer look like for special ed preparation? And how can we really provide more in-depth preparation for somebody when they come back and get that specialization? So that stakeholder group will get started coming up. We're going to be doing these processes simultaneously, but as you know, it's going to take at least a couple of years to get to the standards. It's going to take another couple of years for us to get a test put together after that happens. So this is still a few years out, but we've got time now to start creating these programs and thinking about what this is going to look like. And one of the things I know that will guide our stakeholders' work are the CEC standards. And so if you want to get a head start on things, use that as a guiding document, because I know that that's going to be a primary guiding document for our group. So a lot of exciting work. The Project Optimize link, feel free to check that out. They'll be adding into it. They're actually, they've got money. And so they're like hiring video crews and going out. They did some filming out at the Michigan School for the Deaf. They're going out into programs. I think they were out at CMU for a little bit. Paula had them out there. And so they're trying to create these really nice videos about being a special educator and how awesome it is for that recruitment and retention piece too. So lots of exciting news, and let me know if you'd like to jump on the train.
Next thing, social studies prep standards. We're slated to go back before the board on May 9th. Please tune in. I don't know whether it'll be a morning or an afternoon session. We don't usually know that until very soon before the meeting. If it's in the morning, okay, great. But if it's in the afternoon, that means it'll be after public comment, and it would be really advantageous to acquire more public comment, particularly public comment in support of the standards. There was a period of public comment that was open, and not one person submitted a comment that said, I oppose these standards. There were comments about some slight revisions that were excellent to do. There were some more significant revision ones, but not one person came out with and any of that. But if it is in the afternoon and you have an opportunity to call in for public comment, we'd appreciate it. There were how many people called in last night? Okay, 3. So at the board meeting last week, we had 3 people call in. This is a testament to the work of the social studies stakeholder team that Darcy assembled and led, comprised of representatives from your institutions and graduates from your institutions. So we're excited to do that, and that will finish out the 4 core content areas across the grade bands. Disciplinary literacy standards. So this is one little piece that we've had questions about to get rid of, to replace those reading standards in reading for all secondary programs. We anticipate bringing this forward to the board end of summer into fall. This stakeholder group, Holly Carruthers was the first convener of it, and then has come to Achlam for finalization and getting it going. If you'd like to look at those standards for updating your reading courses for your secondary programs, we can get you that draft. These hew very closely to the disciplinary literacy essentials documents, as well as ILA standards for content area teachers in what they need to know in literacy and content area courses. So we don't anticipate a whole lot of change to them from what is there going forward, but we've had requests like, as we're revising our secondary programs, what do we do with our 3 credits in reading for secondary? If you follow those standards, you'll definitely hit the standards that are still in place and in fact exceed them quite well. So very excited. Again, you can reach out to Aklam for any questions, concerns, things to add. There we go. So Sarah is online and sends me some texts here. So I need to bring this up here so I can catch anything. And you know, if y'all want to say, hey, Sarah, she'll hear you. All right. And I'm going to get a I hate you text soon. Okay. MTTC, we have exciting things. Bridget, would you like to come up and talk to these things? Let's see if you heard the ding. It says, I hate you. Always good to get from your boss.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bridget McDowell. I'm responsible for the MTTC. And earlier this week, you got a good news email from me about the professional knowledge and skills test that's required for grade banded endorsements. The short story is that candidates just need to take one. Our guidance that was in the link that I sent basically it's like, well, how do I know which one to take? And my answer was, you ask your institution. So the guidance that you'll want to give is it should match the endorsement that they're looking for, right? That's a good place to start. But also, you know, think about like their career, you know, their career goals, their experience, you know, maybe if they student taught in like a second grade setting, maybe the pre-K 3 would be more appropriate for them or more comfortable for them than the 3-6. But you do have some choice in what you recommend to your candidates. I think the obvious question is which one is easier, and it seems like they're both kind of easy from what we're seeing so far. But you know, ease depends on your preparation, obviously. So, but that's exciting. For birth to kindergarten, that test was designed so that the professional knowledge is already kind of integrated into that. Thinking when we were originally planning for the birth to kindergarten test, we did not want to ask those candidates, especially since it's now its own, it could be its own standalone program. We didn't want to ask them to pay to take a sub-test in addition to the content area test, just thinking about, you know, earning potential for that degree. So if somebody is doing just birth to kindergarten, they do not need to take any professional tests. But if they're doing birth to kindergarten plus lower elementary, like pre-K 3, they do need to take that. That's somebody who could be placed in a 3rd grade classroom. And so we want to make sure that they're meeting the same expectations and requirements as, you know, their neighbor who just has the LE endorsement. Are there questions about this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, will there be any compensation for students who've already taken two of the
So we're trying to identify who those people are and kind of figure out what to do about it. We did get a list from Pearson really quickly about candidates who were like already enrolled for a now redundant test. And I called everyone individually and I emailed each of them individually and I copied their cert officer so that everybody knew, you know, what's going on. So some candidates actually answered the phone and we're really excited about it. But yeah, like trying to think back, you know, we're just working on identifying who those people are and what can be made available to them. So it's a really good question. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that. Any other questions?
Is there a way that we can make like a pop-up when they go to register for the professional practice one, just to say like, have you taken this before? Emergency, big red flashing things.
That's a really good question. Maybe I hadn't thought about it. We'll have to check with Pearson. Pearson's here. We have Nancy and Clyde here. They're listening to all your conversations, which is very helpful. So yeah, we'll see what can be done. It depends on the, capability, not just of the evaluation systems that Nancy and Clyde work with, but with the Pearson View that manages the registration process. So good question. Yeah, for professional for that. Yeah, I didn't want to overwhelm that guidance document with like tests that don't exist yet. But yeah, that will be the expectation. And that's kind of where this is coming from, was thinking ahead actually beyond 5, 9, 7, 12 to the pre-K 12 endorsements and special ed that Gina was talking about earlier. Because we didn't want to make a pre-K 12 test because that would be a lot. So yeah, we just decided people can pick. So as a heads up for your candidates who are doing like a pre-K 12 only program, like special ed maybe, or music, they'll just be able to pick from a broader set, right? They can choose one of 4 tests.
And choose their strengths, like
Choose
their
their
area of strength. And you want to, I think Bridget hit on it earlier about the clinical experience. What grade band do they have the most clinical experience in? Most likely you want to pick that internship, but it'll be the candidate. They could pick something outside of their internship, but you think that's where they're having their majority of their time. So those would be the questions that really speak to their teacher thinking.
Yeah, I know. Also that you don't have a list of your candidates who are registered for tests, right? That's been a struggle that we've been talking about for a really long time, like since before I was here. So what I'll do is I have on my to-do list is to email Nancy to ask if we can get some semi-regular lists of people who are registered for 2 tests. But it's also going to take a little bit of work from our EPIs to try to just get the word out to candidates proactively to make sure they don't register. Any other questions?
Hi, I just want to make sure I understand the PK-12 part of this. So there are separate PK-12 standards, but the people that are getting a PK-12 cert or endorsement don't have to take a separate PK-12 professional knowledge and skills test. They can choose one of the others.
Gina will answer that.
Great question. Yes, because the PK-12 standards were pulled from all of those other standards. So they reflect directly all of those layers of professional standards that we have. And that's why we figured it would be appropriate for them to be able to choose which one of those tests.
Health and PE. Oh, sorry, that's my bad. Health and PE. Right now, there's the 2 tests. There's the 112 and 113 health and PE. Are they going to also have to take professional knowledge, or because those are new tests, or is it built in?
Here we go, Darcy.
There we go. Eventually, yes. Yeah, those were developed around the same time as I think it was LD and there's one other, I think, special ed test that was developed around the same time in like January of 2020 is when we had the standard setting for that. So, and that's another like pre-K 12. So like it's coming, we'll give you so much notice. Yes.
You may have just answered this and I apologize because I was looking for the microphone for an online person. Brian Bond is asking, need to confirm our pre-K 12, K-12 students in areas like visual arts or music education will now have a professional knowledge test on 2 of their subject area test.
Yep. Here.
On top.
Oh, wait. And let me, I can clarify that. We're rolling this in with the new standards. So we're starting, and that's a slide in a couple of slides. We're starting the standards groups for visual arts and music. Once those standards are in place and those new programs are in place, that's when this requirement will be. So we wait until that new layer of standards and those revised programs are in place, and then you can align them with your professional program. Brian, was that helpful for you? Okay, excellent.
Anything else? That's just really not a concern for pre-K 12 right now, which is why I didn't put it on the website, but I have that text ready to go when we're ready for it. So excellent question. Thank you. So the next question is actually a question I have for you. And we don't have to answer it like in this forum. I can definitely take emails, which is why I put my email address on the slide. But our high school math and ELA tests are underway, and we're so excited to have participation from higher ed folks in our item review. We had planned to launch the test in April of next year. And launching the test means that people are registered and sitting for the appointment. And then after that, we'd plan to have a standard setting meeting for that. That's what SS means, in June of next year. And standard setting is like really important, and we really want higher ed. And if you don't like the tests and think they're too hard, this is the one where you want to send your faculty to go to that meeting, because that's where they set the back score. But in June of 24 is when we were planning on having that meeting to determine what, how many questions do you need to get right in order to pass. We need some more time for item development because it just took a little longer than anticipated. And so we need some input from you about what impact that would have on your candidates if we launch the test a few months later and say like July of next year. So if you have early candidates that you're expecting for high school math or ELA, if you could please let me know when you anticipate your first graduates. And if you have concerns about like a midsummer launch on employment or anything else for those graduates. If we were to say release the first scores in July, that means that they wouldn't be able to register for a test until like August, right? They wouldn't know if they passed or failed until August or until July. They could register for some appointment in August, and then it's just getting really close to the school year. So does that make sense? I'm sitting over there if it doesn't. and for our online,
Hunt her down at lunch.
my email address. So I'm happy to take any questions or complaints later. Okay, thank you.
Hey, wanted to give a little shout out to our other series of state board presentations on preparation innovators and innovative programs. We had our December and January meetings, well-received presentations here. We had our March as our first time bringing in alternative route programs to present to the board. And then we will wind up the series on May 9th with our first independent institution, Aquinas College's program, as specifically the post-bac expedited route and residency program. And then professional innovators in teaching, alternative route program that we had alternative route programs in the last one that sort of had a statewide multi-school focus. Here, professional innovators in teaching is connected with our Michigan Association of Public School Academies and charter schools. And they have both an alternative route for teachers and for administrators. So this sort of fills in the landscape of our different kinds of programs. So we encourage you to take a listen to that, and it's been fairly well received by our board members who really appreciate hearing about all of these things. We've done a fair amount of myth busting. There's still plenty more myths to bust out there. And so we again serve at the pleasure of the board in these presentations. So if they want more, then we will provide more. And to continue featuring these innovative programs. And then future innovations. As Gina mentioned earlier, visual art and music education standards. We'll have the internal kickoff later this month, and then we'll begin with stakeholder groups in early summer. You see who we need. We need faculty, program coordinators, we need cooperating teachers. It's kind of the same what we need with our MTTC committees. We have preparation faculty, early career teachers, and veteran teachers, particularly those who are serving in some mentorship capacity. So contact Gina. We'll take all the leads that we can. And Gina, you want to say?
Thank you so much for those who have already shared this with faculty. I've already had several faculty reach out to me and they're on my list. So continue to spread the word if you have anybody who would like to join us. Especially the cooperating teachers and teachers. Those are the people we're kind of looking for now. We've got a decent faculty representation, although we're always looking. But yeah, do you have people in the field who have been really wonderful cooperating teachers who would be great thinkers and thought partners with the standards process?
Yeah, we're doing some nice partnering with you all on this. So it's it's very exciting to be able to do that. One set of standards which we have not referenced in here, which did undergo some revision and has not yet gone to the board, is our library media standards. And that was an experiment with having an external group, the Michigan Association of School Librarians, previously known as MAME, Michigan Association for Media in Education. They convened a team, did the work on that, and then we picked up the product and we're ready to take it to the board. But we didn't want to take it until we got those four broad the four core content areas across all of the grade bands. Then we can pull in now these PK-12 programs. So that is that will be coming. We only have one school librarian preparation program in the state right now. We would love to have more. The demand is there. And so when those roll out, we hope that sort of politically messaging that this is important and we want more programs. So of our survey reminders here, I'm Jason. I don't know if you want to say a few words on it or just self-explanatory, he says.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I got self-explanatory, right? The surveys, you just have the close dates there, closing in June and July. Reminder, you have access to the dashboard. So if you have any questions about who's taking your survey, you can check out the dashboard. Make sure that your cooperating teachers and supervisors are taking part in the survey. You can do that through the dashboard.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
And as I sit here, I am programming reminders into Qualtrics. So everybody, everybody on these rosters, they will be getting reminders every 2 weeks that you haven't taken this. It just goes to folks who haven't taken the survey yet. So just reminders, you haven't taken the survey, please take it. It expires on this date. So we are sending out those reminders.
Awesome. All right. Title II reminders, submissions are due, again, the self-explanatory slide, May 19th. The help desk, this is the third use of RTI this week. Yeah, that's the company that that takes in all of this. Title II at rti.org or their number for assistance with your Title II submissions. Follow us on social media. Use those hashtags. We have coming right up next month, Teacher Appreciation Month, and there's we've been soliciting shout out videos from families, from schools, principals, sent out to DARTEP listservs. So you could participate in that too. We are bringing back one of our social media people to help with aggregating when we see those hashtags and be able to, something is posted, we can reshare and quantify this. Dr. Rice wants to see lots of kids in this. So, and that helps keep the reminder that that's why we do what we do, right? That is our core constituent base for all our work. And so we want to fill the social media channels with exciting children and recognitions of educators. Okay, and then we've got a little time. They're setting up lunch for some Q&A. But before I do that, I do want to give again a big thanks and shout out on behalf of Sarah and I and MDE to all of our awesome team members here from OEE and OSE. So Dana Billings is here from OSE. Because we couldn't do anything if we didn't have an awesome team of people, and we keep trying to make it more awesome. So big thank you, round of applause for everyone on our team. All right, so Q&A.
Hi,
Thanks for
Sean.
that. Hey, Deborah.
Usually when the MOEC site is being updated, we get like a notice in advance. So like an email used to come out to say, hey,
Yes.
the site's going to be closed Saturday. But the other week it was closed for 2.5 days, no notification. And it came at such an inopportune time and we had no notification. So yeah.
Yeah, so when we have planned maintenance that, you know, this thing is going to roll out, so it's going to go down for this, we have a couple weeks to do that. But we have had some significant challenges that have led to like this has got to shut down right now. You know, people are like, certificates are coming out for people who have not met requirements to be certified, so we better stop this thing. Or no endorsements. Here's your standard certificate. There's nothing on it. And so we've had to shut them down. So we attempt, yes, it is our practice to give sufficient notice. Unfortunately, we've been running into programming issues that don't allow us to give that broad notice. So we apologize for that. Don't call and yell at our student assistants. But if you'd like to call and tell them great job, they would love to hear it. Like, I just called to say you guys are doing a great job. Thank you. Would make their day. Or, you know, nothing in the chat. Okay. That covers it. All right.
Pull this back together now. Normally, if this is your first DARTEP, after these sessions, we would do a report out. But a lot of us have spent the last 3 days together. And we're asking everybody that's taken notes in these sessions to send them to Brian. And we'll post all of them and people can then read what the groups are doing in the comfort of your outside patio chair at a later time or like that, but just to do that. But we wanted to spend just a couple of minutes to see if there was any larger questions for the group before we wrap up. And then we've got a couple other little things that we want to do real quick. So any questions or comments for the group at large and like that? My wait time is lousy these days. So Lori, I think I'm gonna come up.
So I started as a division chair in 2016 and my mentor said, all right, there's someone you have to get to know, you know, especially as you're thinking about accreditation. And that guy is Doug Brashler. And I still remember the first DARTEP meeting where I had the Doug Brashler experience. I got to experience this big personality, had a voice that could talk over the cafeteria if he needed to. And I thought he was like the cool guy, you know, kind of like Mr. Popular. And then 2 days ago, I found out that Sean was on Jeopardy. So that might be in, you might, he may trump you. Anyway, Doug has been such an amazing support for DARTEP. He's retiring after next year. And I know for us personally at Cornerstone, he's just been available, stepped up to serve others selflessly. Still remember going through accreditation and, you know, texting him, totally available. My coworker would do that too. Any questions that we had, he was willing to support. And I know that's true with others too, that he's worked so well with other EPPs, with all of us, really emulates what it means to be collegial, also with MDE. And so we just really want to thank you for your service and your friendship and providing an example of what it means to be an educator of integrity and excellence. So we have just a small token of our appreciation, and let's just thank Doug. We also put together a kudo board for you. Yep, and you'll see it in your email. I just sent it about 5 minutes ago. And if you haven't completed, several of you have written on it, but I put it out to DARTEP. So if you still would like to write something to Doug to thank him, you may do so.
My journey with education started when I was 9 years old. And I was in the church nursery as a 9-year-old helping my mother. And I had been 15 little kids, 2 and 3-year-olds, all over the place. And so I knew as a 9-year-old what my calling was going to be. And every step along the way, I've been able to meet great people who have the same feeling about the importance of kids. And all I can do is very humbly say thank you for the recognition. It's not necessary. And if I can help, give me a call, because that's what educators do. And as I say to my kids in class, this is the most noble profession that you can get into, because without us, there are no doctors, there are no lawyers, there are nobody else that knows anything about life if we don't do our job. And the next wave of educators need to understand that. And so as we go through this journey together, and it is a journey, it's the most noble profession that you can be a part of. And so I thank you for the recognition. It's not necessary. And you've got one more year to put up with me, but I'll try to keep my mouth shut during that time. Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to echo what Doug said. If you need something, give a call. That's what DARTEP is. And use the DARTEP listserv to put out questions. You'll get a lot of responses. Use the DARTEP directory and all the emails you see and reach out, because that's what we're here for. That's who we are. We're a large community, or an environment, as we talked about earlier. And that's how this survives, thrives, grows. And we make little changes and modifications and like that as we need. And so remember, during the summer and like that, you reach out. Because some of us are going to be working on grade band stuff this summer and other things like that, or getting accreditation ready or like that. If you heard a great idea, reach out to the person that you heard from this time. Reach out and pick their brain some more, or find a group and keep brainstorming, because we're a team in Michigan. We're not against each other. We don't pit each other against. We work together as a team in this state. And so let's use all of our resources to keep that going. And with that, drive safe, everyone. Enjoy the summer and keep in touch.